balloons, wireless mesh, a new dynamic mobile network, and you're bringing them all together into this new way of doing things. Nobody's done it before.
What is up, World Mobile Nation? Welcome to DApp Central, your home for everything blockchain and crypto. That intro gives me the goosebumps every single time I watch it. I know I typically don't play it, but today decided to switch it up a little bit, and it's got me ready to go and to dive into everything World Mobile. Now we've got Cal, aka Clover Nodes, who's currently out enjoying his family. However, I am joined today by none other than the man himself, Rob. Welcome aboard. How are you?
Hey, how's it going?
Pretty good, man. That video's got me fired up. It gives me the goosebumps every time I watch it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, very, very nice video. How are you doing, man?
Oh, I've kind of had a lazy day. I got really lucky. We had some horrendous tornadoes that poured through my area last night, and I mean neighborhoods are just gone. And that we're not talking like roof damage. We're talking like the house isn't there anymore. And that kind of hit West Omaha, Nebraska, and then I live on the Iowa side. Well, it hit about 10, 15 miles north of me as well. It just kind of continued. So I got lucky. I was texting one of my friends who's a co-founder of World Mobile last night, and they were checking in on me, and I basically said, "Hey, I was out scanning for points about 4 miles from where the tornado was actively happening. I had to go to the dentist real quick to pick something up, and I left, and I was like, I'm going to drive through the neighborhoods and just scan. And I was like less than 4 miles away from where the tornado was happening. The siren started going off, and you could tell it was coming from the west. So I just started driving east. I didn't know how bad it was, didn't know anything, but I was scanning for points and having a good time, and hightailed it out of there. And turns out it was a really bad storm. So got real lucky.
Sorry to hear that. Hopefully, nobody that you know or nobody that was close to you was impacted by that. I know in the Midwest, that's pretty typical. Here down south, we get a lot of hurricanes, not necessarily a lot of tornadoes or high, I guess hurricanes are high wind, but we don't have the same exact thing here. So we are actually going to be moving into hurricane season, I believe, after August. But it's good to be able to have you here in one piece and hopefully with the roof over your head. Definitely do appreciate you taking the time on your busy weekends to join us here to talk about World Mobile. Let's take a quick look here. We've got Olo Nodes in the house. What's up? Thank you for being here. You've been in the chat actually a little bit early. We've also got Jeff, fellow ENO, tuning in here. Jeff, hopefully you're doing well. I'd love to get you on to talk about your experience in Reno with the team. So if you're more than open to jump on there, feel free to reach out to myself or Robin. We'll get you
the Jeff,
on here.
This shirt that I'm wearing here, this is the LVLCS jersey that they advertised a couple months back and had a great sale on. Jeff actually bought me mine. So I'm very, very, very thankful for my friend Jeff. He reached out and said, Rob, I got you one. I need your address. And so the first time wearing it is today, and I'm glad that Jeff's here for that.
Nice. It fits you well. I love the purple that matches your background. Let's see. We've got Slumcat in the house. We've got Toggin. We've got Earthpath always showing up for the streams. Definitely do appreciate you tuning in. Limitless, Evolutions NFT. And yeah, we've got some compliments coming in towards your shirt. So let's go ahead and just jump right on in here. Clover, and we did have Emmanuel and Mickey on a Twitter space actually earlier today. I saw yourself in the ENO Alliance hanging out in there listening in, and this was an interesting chat. I'd love to maybe thoughts surrounding that, but it was Mickey, Emmanuel, and a couple of other members from outside ecosystems talking DePIN. So of course, Mickey and Man able to chime in there and expose World Mobile a little bit, which was obviously a really good thing. Now, as a part of today's video, we're going to be diving into when it comes to scan for points. We're also going to take a quick look here at the World Mobile roadmap. I found a couple of things, and I think that Rob wants to highlight a couple of key items there as well. We've obviously got some brand new records when it comes to NFT sales. I'd love to get your thoughts on that there as well, Rob. And then we've got the deployment of, I believe, over 1,500 air nodes now. So we'll touch a little bit on that as well to see exactly how the community feels and what your thoughts are surrounding that as well, Rob. I think that's really it. Are there any other sort of items or topics that you want to dive into? I know that yesterday we did have an ambassador call. We were able to see some pretty interesting badges. I'm not sure if we're able to maybe dive a little bit deeper into that. Obviously, we can't actually share what they look like, but I'm sure that we could probably share what our initial reactions were to that and how they fit into the World Mobile ecosystem. What are your thoughts surrounding some of the topics there, Rob?
Let's just go. I can talk. It's not usually the most intelligent thing, but I can say something.
Yeah, no, I appreciate your insight, and I'm sure that the community does as well. Let's go ahead and just jump right on in here. Let me go ahead and quickly share my screen. We'll kick things off here with WMT Scan. And of course, for the viewers, feel free to go ahead and leave any sort of topics, questions, or maybe just comments and opinions in the replay. We'll go ahead and jump into those, and you guys can help to steer the conversation for today's live stream here as well. So jumping right into WMT Scan, the price of the WMT token currently sitting at 33 cents. We really haven't seen a pullback since the hype around the potential partnerships a couple of weeks back. So for anybody who was able to obviously get an earlier entry, I'm sure that they're very satisfied with what they're able to pick up. For anybody who's coming in a little bit later, they haven't really been able to get a nice solid lower price, right, to sort of justify entering into the token. Now, in terms of the market cap, sitting at $191 million, a total or global supply of 2 billion tokens. And we've got about a quarter of that currently in circulation with over 567 million tokens out for the community. Now, of that, we have over 413 million currently staked. And then scrolling down, we've got a consumption of over 9.5 terabytes of data in the last 24 hours alone. As I mentioned earlier, 1,555 air nodes currently deployed, with a brand new record, if I'm not mistaken, of over 75,000 unique users interacting with the World Mobile Network in the last 24 hours. In terms of uptime, we're now well over 700 days. And then taking a closer look at some of the top earning air nodes, we've got $80, $76, $75, $75, and then the lowest earning about $69. So a pretty tight range there, quite a bit coming in here for air node operators. And I think that's actually a piece that we wanted to dive into if we're able to get a special guest to join us here for today's stream. So I know, again, Clover's out. Manny will not be joining us. However, there is a potential guest in the back here. I don't want to spoil it in case he's able to join us. But over to you, Rob, surrounding just any of the stats here when it comes to WMT Scan.
It's nice to see that the monthly revenue is up again. I think sometimes we see those numbers go way down. I mean, I've seen it in the $20s or $30 per month, but you got to remember a lot of that is just the API. It's not connecting properly. So this is kind of the running average. If it were to stay this way, this is what would it be over the course of a month as far as the top air nodes. This is in Zanzibar. They're using a different type of air node than what you're able to potentially buy in Reno. And so, don't take this as, well, if I spend $18,000 on a 360, this is all I'm going to get per month. That's not. It's apples and oranges as far as dollar comparisons. So just be considerate of that. It's nice to see that number's up though, because as Manny's come on and said, the monthly income in a place like Zanzibar is about $150 a month. And so for some of these people that are hosting this, and this is just the host revenue, this isn't the owner revenue. So for the people that are hosting this, that are making sure that things are operational on site, that potentially, depending on their situation, could be very, very helpful to them. And I love seeing that. That's what the sharing economy is all about. So, it's nice to see we're still holding that 9.5 to 10 terabyte consumption on average. Again, that's what's being reported. That's based on the 1,555 air nodes. I think we've had 30 some air node increase since our last stream 2 weeks ago. So we're seeing air nodes popping up in places that don't have, folks like you and me, Fareed, people who are WMT investors and trying to buy something with Operation Airnode. This is through World Call in Pakistan. They're up to, I remember when they just deployed, there's like 100 of them. They're up to 887, in Zanzibar, where, this is the sharing economy happening. This is boots on the ground in Zanzibar folks are buying these things and putting them up, and you're seeing those numbers increase. This isn't World Mobile trying to stick up as many nodes as they can. This is people that are in the area that believe in it and are trying to make it happen. So it's great to see the AirNode numbers go up. It's great to see the network consumption stay put. If you look, unique users 75,000. We are that is about the highest I've seen reported. I did get a message from Manny now, and he's basically, authorized the release of this. Even though it's not reported, there are currently over 100,000 unique users going on right now. So again, World Mobile, they're holding on to some of this data. They want to make sure that things are processing right. The question is, where are those 100,000 users? Are these all subscribers? Are these people just connecting to AirNodes? Is what's being displayed there, is this through partners? Is this through World Mobile's network itself? I'd love to get more, the fine tooth comb, how all these numbers relate. But we do know that they're increasing in numbers. They're increasing their range and their area of reach. And so we're seeing all these things happen. We're seeing the numbers stay specific just for Zanzibar. We don't know what's happening in Pakistan with the numbers. The 5 air nodes, that was just what they initially deployed in Reno. We know from our friend Cal that they are actually, Cal's air node is on right now in Reno. It's on and it's connecting and it's generating revenue, and those numbers haven't come out yet. So there's a lot that's going on there, and sometimes it's, if you think about it, a lot of these companies, these big companies, these Fortune 500 companies, the ones that you trade stocks in and stuff like that, they don't release their information, but maybe once a quarter for their quarterly earnings report. World Mobile, they're not beholden to that. They're not beholden to their there's no shareholders. There's no, we can buy the token, but that's not, doesn't give us any voting powers or access or ownership rights or anything. We are truly the community. World Mobile can release what they want, and they release so much, but I think they're trying to get some of the numbers right. And when they release these things, I think we'll be amazed at what's been going on in the background. And it always seems like that every time they announce something, it's like, yeah, that might have been known to certain people for 3-4 months at a time, right? They've been holding on to it, and they drop it. It's like, holy crap, what else is going on? There's a lot there. The numbers can be deceptive, but I would just encourage people to say, if you look at WMT Scan, just think that is low. That is not the proper estimate there. So very exciting to see this, knowing that there's more going on in the background than they're even reporting to us right now. I'm like I said, I am very thrilled with the direction that things are going here, and I'm very excited to see things grow, public facing things growing.
Yeah, you raised a couple of good points there, and we are going to take some questions from the community. There's actually quite a few that have already come in, which I think are really good points for us to hit on. But before I do that, and this is actually an educational piece for me here as well, and I'll be the first to tell you, I am not in the weeds in World Mobile like Rob and Clover are, right? So I am never ashamed to ask them for clarity and for help. But Rob, I know we've had Operation AirNote in the United States, right, in Reno, where we've seen the sale of like the first, I believe it was first batch of like 20 air nodes, right? A mix between the two types of devices. Now, when we take a look at the air nodes, right, the remaining 14 or 1500 that have gone out outside of Reno, those were not sold as a part of Operation AirNode. So do you recall, or are you aware of like how those were actually collaborated to have been set up? And then if we could potentially also see an Operation AirNode in the other regions, for example, like Pakistan, where we do have the community that can then actually purchase those air nodes. So again, it's somewhat of a two-sided question, right? Number one, how were those initial air nodes set up? Was that done through some sort of partnership in collaboration with actual service providers on the ground? But then number two, do you believe that we could potentially see an Operation AirNode for the community to chip in Zanzibar, in Pakistan, etc.?
Yeah. So with the 5 that are currently live and displaying in Reno, my belief is that Excuse me 1 second. I have a kid who's trying to sneak in the door. Sorry, I have 5 kids. I've told them I'm on a call. Don't come in the room, and they always want to. Can I have the iPad? No, shut up. So with the 5 in Reno, there's a couple of things. Number one, World Mobile has some funding. They have the ability to buy these things and set them up, to test them out. You know, they're going to do that. So it's possible that these are World Mobile owned air nodes, the 5 that are being shown. It's also very possible that they have some early investors, some people that we don't know, behind the scenes that have bought these and set these up. My understanding, and this is a loose understanding, is that those 5 were not the initial 5 that went with Operation Airnode, the first deployment there. I believe those have been set up. If not, they're being set up. But because if you look, like we talked about before, when Cal was in Reno a couple weeks back, he went to his site and took a picture with his Airnode, right? So we know that they've been set up, and this was likely prior to even the sale of them. They're testing things out, and by the way, these are for sale. So I think that there's a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of investors. There's a lot of people that are behind the scenes. We'll never know their names or see their faces, but they're heavily involved in influencing what World Mobile's doing. And it's not just Mickey and James Tag all the time. There's a lot of folks there. As far as things like Pakistan goes, I always say that my first introduction to World Mobile is watching the Smart Village video and watching them put up a street lamp with solar panel in the middle of a powerless village. And that's what I wanted to be involved with. And I've actually asked about this about a week or 2 ago. I said, are we still going to see that? Is that still going to be an option to be able to do something like that? I mean, it's great. I'm all about making money. I got 5 kids, right? My wife and I were on a single income. I am all about making money if there's potential for that. But there's also something that says I want to be involved in something, and I want to help out in ways that maybe I don't receive financial benefit from. And I know there's a lot of people that are out there that way. Hey, if we can make this work, let's do it. I'm not worried about the numbers. So I asked about that, and they said absolutely, that is still something that's going to be happening. They're focusing their deployment in areas right now where they can generate sustainable revenue in order to allow that to spread. If they focus all their attention right now in places that aren't going to generate the revenue, then they're going to run out of funds and not have the ability to deploy the way they need to. So there's a multi-pronged approach. We know that they're already in 5 countries. We know that they're talking to several other ones right now. So I believe that in time we're gonna have that opportunity to buy an air node in Nigeria or in Kenya or in Tanzania, and be able to put those up. And again, it might not be the same high dollar one that we're talking about in Reno. It might be a different variety. It might cost a different amount. The earnings will probably be less than what you might get in a place like Reno or a bigger city in the United States. But that is something that is going to happen, because that's the whole purpose of what World Mobile is connecting the unconnected. So I'm looking forward to that. Actually, I want to be able to say I'm an international businessman because I have a node that I'm generating income off of from another country in Asia or in Africa or in Europe. I think that'd be really, really cool. But again, I did ask about that. They said it is coming.
Awesome. I appreciate that. Let's take a quick break here. We've got a lot of really solid questions coming in from the community. I want to thank everybody who's taken the time to ask a question. The first one is coming in here from Jeff, again, fellow ENO. And of course, Jeff, you're more than welcome here on the channel. I mentioned this earlier, but I'd love to get your take on your recent experiences with the team. So do we know when WMT Scan will get a refresh? I'm not necessarily sure that myself or Rob are qualified to answer this, but I definitely think that we can reach out to Manny. Rob, if you do have a direct line with Manny right now, maybe feel free to go ahead and maybe just ask him that. If he's got a couple of seconds to respond, we can follow up here with Jeff, excuse me.
There is something there that they've said before, and sometimes it's easy to overlook. But they did say that WMT Scan is actually going to go away in a sense. It is going to merge with Airnode .worldmobile.io. That's all going to be, they're going to take the data from WMT Scan and incorporate it into the map on the air node. So all of that's going to be available, and it's going to be much more of a faster refresh time, of more of a live rate. So again, I'm not sure when that merger is gonna happen, but I know they're testing it out, and they're very, very high on what it's gonna mean and what it's gonna look like, and some of the extra utility that's gonna provide.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And that's actually one of the biggest things that I noticed, right, with trying to use the brand new website, which Cal basically mentioned. That's all that he uses now. But when I try to use it, I'm looking for like the actual pinpoints of where each of the air nodes are located. And I don't have that here on the brand new website, but you do have that on WMT Scan here, where you can dive a little bit deeper and actually see where the air node is hosted. So hopefully, Jeff, that gives you a little bit of clarity. Next, we've got Carlo Patel asking, is there any truth to node operators or Earth node operators being able to use cell phones to run their Earth node? I overheard something like this in one of the recent X Spaces. This might be in reference to some of the screenshots where I think Mickey had released something about operating a node directly from an Android device. Rob, do you recall what that was about?
That's in reference to the Unity node. Unity node is going to be a collaboration between Minutes Network and World Mobile. And what it's going to do is it's going to be kind of a bridge that's going to allow what Minutes is doing by providing call terminations, connections to terminations via voice device, voice activated. Sorry, I'm losing my mind. What Minutes is doing with the Minutes network, connecting overseas phone calls, things of that nature. They're going to need to be able to gather information, provide service in the area. That's what the Unity node is going to do. Unity node is going to be something that you're going to basically put an app on your Android phone, and you're going to run that, and it's going to talk directly to the Earth node. You won't be running an Earth node yourself from your phone. My experience running a Cardano stake pool, I'm guessing the best thing that you're going to be able to do from your cell phone is going to be able to set up some sort of a monitoring device to find out if your nodes are up and running, what all the specs are happening. You know, if you have any error codes, those types of things. For example, we set up my friend and I set up a Telegram bot to get notifications if there's ever something outside of parameters for my Cardano stake pool. I'm guessing that's going to be about the only thing that you can do from your cell phone as far as Earth node operations go, is just kind of monitor what's happening. But as far as running a node, that's all about the Unity node. The Unity node and then scan for points are the two things that are being discussed with the cell phones right now.
Perfect. Thank you. I appreciate that, Robin. We'll dive into scan for points in just a minute. Got a couple of more questions I want to take from the community. Next one coming in here from Richard, and this is a pretty controversial one. So why is these, and I assume ZZ stands for Zanzibar, delaying the aerostat? So this has been one that I think has been going on for quite a bit of time, if I'm not mistaken. That was supposed to be where like the first aerostat was supposed to go up, right? And again, I think there were some, I don't want to say, I don't know what the right term is here, but there were some delays, right, for lack of better terms, with the approval of the actual launch of the aerostat, which is why I believe the team ended up actually going and being able to get it done in Mozambique instead. Now, there's a follow-up piece here coming in from Richard, again, on that same topic. How can we get some negative press to make them look bad and to force their hands? So, Richard, I have to say here, I don't think that's the best way to approach the situation. If anything, the best way to go ahead and approach and to make Zanzibar realize that they're missing out is by showing them the facts and the numbers about the adoption of the World Mobile Network in areas that they have gotten the aerostats to go up in, right? So, for example, Zanzibar, Mozambique, taking whatever data that they have there, right, showing how efficient the aerostat has been in the amount of coverage that it can provide, and bring that back over to the Zanzibarian government and showing them and say, hey, this is what you're missing out on. This is the opportunity that you could have if we're able to get this thing up and in the air. And you can imagine that pressure is only going to grow as more nations and as more countries allow for aerostats to go up and to fly, right? So again, I know Rob recently took a little trek, no pun intended, with this Trekk stake pool, but he took a little trek and he went to take a look at an aerostat in the United States, right? So imagine when there's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different aerostats, and they're all providing data about the benefits, the utility, and the coverage. It's going to be a matter of time until Zanzibar realizes, hey, we were supposed to be one of the first people to adopt this. We kind of missed the train. we're now starting to see that other people have gotten some benefits. Maybe we need to rethink, and maybe we need to go back to the drawing board and actually approve the World Mobile team to get their aerostat up in the air. So those are just my 2 cents. Rob, I'd love to kind of hear your take on how we could potentially get that aerostat back up in Zanzibar. But I definitely think that, showing them facts and showing them the value is the best way forward.
Yeah, and you have to remember that this is the I think the Minister of Defense. That's the office that has been derailing the deployment of the aerostat, and it's not just for Zanzibar; it's for Tanzania. They are the protectorate for Zanzibar, is my understanding. So there's something there about there's some concerns. I think that when you're dealing with the military, you have to make sure that um, everything is lined up the right way. Yeah, there's a couple of things there that you need to remember. Also, is there are some countries. I'm not saying this is true with Tanzania, but um, a lot of it is you hear about in the news, Warlord Territory, those types of things, right? Where everything's a payoff. Everything is, hey, we'll rub your back if you rub ours, kind of a thing. What are you going to do for me? And there's some talk a while back. This is well over a year ago, where Mickey even came out and said they wanted us to pay him money. They wanted us to pay him a basic bribe money, and I believe this was for specifically for Zanzibar. It might have been for another area that they were trying to get into, but they're like, we're not going to do that, because when does it stop? We want them to they need us more than we need them, kind of a thing, is kind of the approach. And they want to make sure that everything is an equal playing field across the board, because if they pay X amount of dollars to Tanzania, then how much is the Ivory Coast or Burkina Faso or all the other countries? Hey, you're paying them, you need to pay us too. That's a possibility. The other thing is, with the military, think what happened in the United States last year. We had a couple of spy balloons flying over that went uncontested, right? And there's speculation as to where those came from, what those really were, and it's possible that there's some concern about that. I don't know what would give them the indication, but when you're in charge of protecting your country, you need to make sure that you're comfortable with it as well. And so whatever the reason is this is a military based thing, and we're not going to be able to publicly shame the military of a sovereign nation with a couple of tweets. So yeah, I think that Mickey knows what he's doing. He has all those guys on speed dial. They know to reach out to him. They're still clearly building in Zanzibar. And so it's not a done deal yet, but after 11 months of waiting, they moved over to Mozambique, and they got it up with very little red tape. And it's been a raging success. Vodacom is on board, and they're working together on something specifically with the aerostat in Africa. And it's a lot of notice. Obviously, the aerostat was on the cover of the GSMA for the meeting in Barcelona a couple months back. There's a lot of interest. There's a lot going on, and honestly, they're basically taking numbers right now, because there's more demand than what World Mobile is able to do currently. So I wouldn't worry too much about Tanzania and Zanzibar. They're on the list. They're interested. It's just they had their place in line, and they had to move. World Mobile had to move on a little bit, and now it's a matter of when can they find the ability to resupport them and to help out. So again, a lot going on, but nothing that I'm overly worried about, and I think that World Mobile is taking the right path with that.
Yeah, solid response. And in closing, and I see more and more comments rolling in, so maybe we just do a comment stream today, let the community kind of drive the conversation. But in closing here, just to kind of touch on what Rob mentioned, I mean, it's a slippery slope, right? So you think about it, as he clearly stated, if somebody's asking for payments, what's stopping the next country doing the same thing? And what this also shows me with the quick turnaround in the execution in Mozambique is that it's not an issue with World Mobile's side of the equation, right? Like, once they got the approval, they're able to get everything up and into the air as quickly as possible. So I do want to quickly touch on that question there. Hopefully that does provide you a little bit of clarity. Let's quickly touch on a few more here. So hopefully, again, Richard, that answers your question. Thank you for that. I did want to quickly touch on something earlier that I forgot to mention. So we were discussing the WMT stats. Let me actually quickly pull those back up here. And Rob had mentioned that he talked to Manny, right? And he mentioned over 100,000 actual unique users. And all we currently see right now is 75. So what this basically brings to mind for me is how different are these other numbers from what we actually know to be fact, right? So um, if the unique users is currently set at 75,000 and Manny has reported 100,000, that's a little bit over a third or so of an increase from where we currently stand. So if you take that theoretical approach, again, I know and not everything's going to be linear, but you apply that to the data bytes, or not the data bytes, the terabytes, excuse me, of data that has been consumed, that could bring us anywhere to about 12 to 13 gigs of data being consumed in the last 24 hours. Very similarly, take that and you apply that to the air nodes, that could mean that we have potentially anywhere between 18 to 1900 air nodes currently deployed there as well, right? Again, the team doesn't give us the full picture, but what we do know is that they have crossed over 100,000 users in the last 24 hours using the World Mobile Networks. All right, let's take a couple more questions here. There's one surrounding, let's see here, again from Richard. Let me go ahead and bring this down. Asking a little bit about the time to recoup the for air nodes. So the team was nice enough to give us a calculator here, Richard, and I'll go ahead and quickly pull this up. This is available at airnode.worldmobile.io/calculator. I'll just paste it here in the chat. There you go, Richard. But from here, you can type in the amount of subscribers that would theoretically be connected to your air node. You can highlight whether you're a host and operator or a host/operator. And then you can also select the type of hardware that you currently have, right? So either the Portal 180, the Portal 360, which is just two portals back to back. And then we have the WMS Titan. So depending on which hardware you have and the amount of subscribers here, you can see exactly how much you would earn. And of course, you would just take this earning and subtract the amount that you paid or the amount that you initially invested in order to figure out how quickly it would take for you to recoup your assets back. So hopefully that provides you some clarity there on that. Next, we've got a quick question coming in from Togen asking, when can we see World Mobile in Europe? That's a great question. It's been one that's come up here quite a bit. I know that they've provided eSIM services or eSIM coverage in Europe, but we don't have the official launch of any air nodes in Europe there. So probably one to ask the actual team. I'll see if I can ask Mickey during my next sit down, which should hopefully be in the next couple of days or the next couple of weeks. Now, let's see here. We've got another follow-up here from Grandiose. Grandiose, thanks for always showing support on the channel. I know you're a huge fan of USDC and getting that here in the Cardano ecosystem. But this is asking, when can we see WMT on Binance? Great question. I know that the World Mobile team has a pretty close connection with the team at Binance. They were together at the, I think it was the Mobile World Congress, hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly, event that took place a couple of months back. There's some pictures floating around with Mickey and the Binance team where Mickey appeared to be doing some sort of presentation with the Binance team. And even prior to that, there's been instances where we've seen the World Mobile team collaborating with Binance. Now, I know one of the biggest things here is the amount that some of these centralized exchanges require in order to actually get a listing on their platforms. So I'm not sure what that is. I know for a platform like Mexi, it was somewhere around $60,000, which I don't think is actually too big in the grand scheme of things. But you can imagine that Binance is probably charging more than $60,000 in order to get an exchange listing. So that's one thing to keep in mind there. If they use the World Mobile token in order to fund the listing, you could imagine that that could potentially result in some downside pressure if they do decide to sell some of those tokens after the actual listing happens. So just a couple of things to keep in mind. But then also, just generally speaking, we saw Frederick Agard, the head of the Cardano Foundation, mentioning yesterday following the Project Catalyst funding round number 12 kickoff that they are working to get Cardano native assets listed on more and more platforms, like basically bringing more exposure to Cardano native tokens. So I know there's been talks about a platform called LBank. They run an exchange themselves, but they've also got a $100 million fund for onboarding or for providing startup like qualities for different ecosystems. So the Cardano Foundation has been chatting with them. Could we potentially see something coming out of that? That's another possibility. I don't think it's directly tied back to Binance, but it ties back into just giving more exposure to Cardano native assets to the broader community. All right, let's see here. Rob, welcome back. Not a problem. I understand life happens. Let's see if we can take a couple more questions from the community. And then I think we can jump into talking a little bit about the Earth nodes and the supply shock that we recently saw with that. Let's see here. I'm trying to catch up here on the chat. So another question here from Richard, is there any way to donate nodes for a small village with Starlink as the internet source? Not sure that I can answer that. Rob, feel free to chime in here if you have any sort of insights around that.
So the best thing, and actually I had a conversation similar to this recently with one of the team members, and one of the best things that you're able to do with World Mobile is you can start your own partnership. You can start your own nonprofit. You can start anything that you want and work with World Mobile. They want to get the network out there. They're not so concerned about, you know, how many middlemen do we have, who's getting a cut of this and that. You know, it's like I mentioned, I wanted to do something where I put a street lamp up with some Wi-Fi, right, in a village. Give them some power, give them some solar, give them some cellular service. And so those are all things that are on the table, and World Mobile is going to spearhead some of that, and World Mobile is going to look for people that want to do that. You know, there are people out there that have very altruistic mentalities, and that's what their aims and goals are. And so I think we're going to see that from people that are saying, "Hey, this is my service, this is my mission." You know, you might have we have the Earth Node Alliance, right? You might find people grouping up to say, you know, we're going to start our own alliance, and the alliance, it's going to be a nonprofit charity alliance, and we're going to take a percentage of our Earth nodes and we're going to donate them to, and people might start a charity and say, we're going to buy Earth nodes, and we're going to establish a foothold, and we're going to provide these services to people with Earth node profits. I guarantee there's people that are thinking about doing things like that. So I think the sky's the limit. It's just a matter of what you're able to do and how you're able to facilitate that. But World Mobile is definitely open to doing things, because that's the entire mission behind World Mobile.
Nicely put. Additional commentary coming in from Carlo. Hopefully governments will be covering their territory with WMT aerostats. Hopefully so. Again, once they see the benefit, the numbers, the revenue, and the fact that it not only helps them, but also helps their country, I think it's going to be a no-brainer. Another question from Richard, asking a ton of really good things here for today's video, or for today's live stream. I appreciate that. Is there a way to see scan to earn without the actual app? Is this planned? I believe it's planned. I'm not sure that you can actually see anything surrounding the map unless you actually have the iPhone app. I don't have Android, so I haven't been able to really play around with it as much as I would love to. I know that we are waiting for the official release of Scan for points and just the entire global app on iOS very soon. But Rob, when you jump into the app, are you able to see other hexes that other people have scanned, or are you only able to see hexes that you scanned?
Yeah, so there's three things that you can see. There's the green, and it has a 5 in it, right? 5 means it's unscanned. There's 5 points available. If somebody else has scanned it, you're going to see either diminishing number, 1 through 4, and it'll be a different shade of green, or the space will be grayed out, and it'll say not available. Kind of like what you can see. We can see right there with the kind of the gray spots where there's a 0. So yeah, there you can see if other people have done it. And that's kind of the curious thing, you know, it's the map is supposed to reset every 3 months, right? So I don't think that's 3 months, calendar months for everybody. I think it's from the date of scan, kind of a thing. But I live in the middle of nowhere, right? And there's a couple spots on the interstate or the highway that have a 4, and it's a different shade of green when I drive. I'm like, there's no way somebody drove my back country road and got 1 point out here. It's not reasonable to even think that. My guess is I got a partial scan somewhere, and it gave me a point, because I have a random number. I don't have a 0 or a 5 as far as my points go. You know, there's like a 7 or a 9, or so. I think that you get partial points sometimes if it doesn't register a whole scan, but it'll also show you when other people have scanned the area out, and that gray 0 is different from the orange one. The orange one means you've scanned the area, as opposed to the when it's grayed out, that means it's unavailable because somebody else has. I can't hear you.
Oh, sorry about that. I was definitely muted. I want to say thank you to Richard. Let's keep the conversation rolling. We'll take a couple more we'll jump into the Earth nodes and then the staking for discounts. I think that's another topic we want to touch on there as well. Here. So this is coming in from Copace. I live near a public university in Illinois. Is it too early to think about working with them to place an air node? I definitely don't think so. And Rob, I'd love to get your thoughts on this here, but there's a huge process right before the actual air node goes up, and I think a lot of that is just dealing with education. So spending the time to, number one, sort of just build a bridge, get familiar with them. If you obviously work there, then maybe you don't have to do that. But I think the biggest thing would just be to help them understand what is blockchain and how do the two pair to provide the global sharing economy that World Mobile is aiming to provide, right? So I think that's probably the biggest thing to just do is just establish what World Mobile is, how they can benefit, how they can use it. And then as we get additional rollouts for Operation Airnode, and that becomes a lot wider, right? And a lot more available to the general public, then you can then kind of start rolling in the conversation about, where to deploy the air nodes, potentially even running the numbers, right? Showing the calculations like I showed earlier about what type of hardware they're purchasing, how long it would take for them to recoup their money, and then also how that could benefit or how that would compare to what they're currently paying for internet service providers or for their internet services. Rob, any thoughts surrounding, how to actually go about incorporating, right, or at least raising awareness around World Mobile to institutions, not just in Illinois, but for anybody else who might be around a business that has the potential to benefit from World Mobile?
Yeah, and this is something that I think people with who are more business savvy than me will probably have a better sense of how to do this. But you got to remember, a lot of these schools are going to be state sponsored schools, state universities, or they're going to be private. They're going to have a board of directors, those kinds of things. There are private businesses all the time go to these universities, these higher learning institutions, and try to pitch their here's what I can do for you, kind of a thing, as far as building companies, all sorts of stuff. So people are they're constantly talking with them. They're used to work with private companies. The question is, do you have an in? Do you know where to go? Do you know how to get a hold of them to even do this? Is there a need? And that's what the scan for points is so great for, is you can roll around and you can scan the area. You can drive through a campus or walk a campus and see, hey, World Mobile, I got you this area. Can you tell me what the results are? And that's one of the things that Manny said is going to happen in the future, scan for points Airnode merger site that's going to happen, is you're going to see what kind of signal strength there is. So give you better information on where you want to deploy your air nodes. But having be able to come to them and say, hey, you have a problem. Your problem's connectivity. I can help. All I need is power and align to your internet potentially. Maybe not. Maybe you just use a Starlink up on one of their roofs. But here's a mutually beneficial thing. I can cover your campus. I can make sure that things don't go down as much, or there's going to be a backup for the other big boy towers. I mean, there's whatever your pitch is going to be. You just got to figure out what you want to do. You mentioned the blockchain thing. I honestly don't think that we even need to mention blockchain right away. The goal is to say, hey, look, this is what's going to happen, and by you hosting it, there is a financial benefit on top of the benefit to your students, and that comes in fiat. It doesn't come in crypto. They don't need to worry about crypto. Um, think of the university being a host, right? They're just going to host an Airnode, maybe a Titan, maybe one that's going to really cover the area, or a whole bunch of smaller ones that are going to cover each individual building. But being able to go to those places, I mean, that's on my radar. I got 2 major Division I universities here in my hometown, and the ability to go there and present that. I mean, that excites me. Even if I can't do it with the universities, if I can get one of these Titans up, if I can, find some people to help me cover that cost or take care of that thing. Hey, now we have Fortune 500 companies in my town. We got universities, we got major medical centers, we have all sorts of things going on. And so finding ways to approach, it doesn't have to be the university itself. But then the question comes in too, and this is something that maybe Mav 100 might have an answer to as well. But say you approach university, say you approach somewhere that has a massive population, right? They have a massive staff, they have a massive student population, and you say, hey, I have the ability to control pricing a little bit here for my franchise. I can give you 10% off or 20% off. And now you're like, all you have to do is you use this code when you sign up with World Mobile for your cell phone services. And now all of a sudden, now you have people that you're finding customers. They're coming to you because you're in their newsletter. Hey, I want to save some money on my wireless. Um, so now the university is helping you host the air node, and they're helping you find customers for it, which is going to benefit you as well. I mean, again, these are all these things that roll through my head. I don't know if any of this is accurate or even possible, but if it is, you better believe that people are going to jump on it. And I'm sure there are some not individual people like you or me, but we're talking big businesses that are looking to line this type of stuff up and go in hard, incorporate what World Mobile is doing with their business plan as well.
Sorry about that. I'm missing my mute button here today. What I tend to see is the early adopters standing to gain the biggest benefit, right? Once the market is saturated with air nodes and operators, it's going to be harder and harder to find a market. Very similar to Cardano stake pools, right? So unless you have a unique offering, as the network matures, it's going to be harder to find your way in. So I think the earlier you're able to hit the ground running, for example, like somebody like Mav 100, they've kind of jumped the gun, right? Like they've already sort of um, claim their stake in Washington, continuously now growing and expanding. And as more people begin to do that, it's going to be harder to infiltrate those areas that already have coverage, that already have subscribers, et cetera. So I don't think it's too early to get the conversation rolling. I would say it's better to be early than to wait for somebody else to come and potentially take advantage of that opportunity there. Quick questions coming in from Olo Notes surrounding batch number 2. Any word around that? I know the team said that they're working on it. Rob, I think they did discuss it on one of the last community calls, but I wasn't there in attendance. Is there anything else surrounding batch number 2? I don't think there's an official date yet.
No, I haven't heard an official date. I don't think it's come out, but we've seen Christian posting pictures of semi trucks, right? We've seen warehouses full of pallets that are getting moved. We're seeing we're seeing a lot of stuff come in. Pictures with Charles Hoskinson and Mickey holding Titans. There's I believe there's 2 Titans that are spoken for. Maybe all 3 are spoken for in the Reno area right now. Um, those are probably in place. So what are these big pallets full of all these big things coming in? I think they're gearing up, and they did a limited run, probably because that's either what they had on inventory or they'd already started to deploy and get set up. And so they basically sold what was already there. I think they're gearing up for a much bigger one, and I personally don't think that uh, batch 2 is going to be limited to 10 or 20 air nodes. I think it's going to be bigger, and I think that we're going to start to see the ability once Reno is, I don't want to say saturated, but once there's more of them up, we're going to see that Reno be a home base where they're going to spread out to a lot of other cities and places like that. So I would say, look, this is a good question, definitely to ask the team. Either reach out to Manny, the Web3 cat, or wait because next week they're going to do their monthly AMA. They haven't disclosed the exact date yet, but I believe it's supposed to be next week. They're working on confirmations to fit everybody's schedule. So again, great opportunity to ask these guys directly because I'm interested. I missed out on batch 1. I'd like to get in, especially in Reno where they're deploying and they have the infrastructure there. So they're doing a lot more work, which means less for me to do, right? That's the goal. But anyway, yeah, I think that we'll know this week, at least have an updated timeline on that.
Perfect. And yeah, Rob mentioned the community call. Make sure to tune in if you've got any questions that you want to ask directly to the team. We typically have literally, all of the bigger heads and the bigger leads there. Mickey, obviously, James Tag, Alan Omnet, Antonio, everybody's on those calls. So jump in if you got technical questions or general questions. A follow-up very similar coming in from Richard here, discussing the fact that the current website says that they're sold out. How long until they're installed? You may have missed it earlier, but I believe Rob mentioned that Clover's Air node is already installed, even though it's not showing on the website. So again, that goes to show that we don't get the full picture on WMT Scan, right? So even though we think, the numbers are growing and we're hitting brand new all-time highs all the time, I think that we're only seeing, about 75% of what's actually out. last but not least here, before we jump back into the regular schedule here, we have a question from Richard asking about the WMT hardware. So can we use what WMT provides, or can we use whatever we want? I believe you have to use the specific hardware that WMT provides. They're going to be in charge of setting them up. But of course, you're in charge of maintaining, monitoring, and doing all of that. I'm not sure about any third-party hardware, but Rob, feel free to chime in here if you've got any questions or if any topics, excuse me, anything that you want to add.
I think that that's part of the plan, is they're going to be compatible. The software is it just depends on the format or the build of the device, because they had they get the question all the time, well, what about helium? I got all these helium miners that are just shut down because they don't do anything for me. Is it going to be possible to use those? And they've said, they've indicated that in time that's going to be something that they want, where you can go build your own thing and just use the proprietary software that World Mobile is putting out to benefit their network. So I think there'll be some custom builds. I think there'll be some other devices, but I think that what World Mobile is actively trying to sell right now is they're trying to establish a baseline for the actual hardware and equipment they're putting out.
Thank you for that. And there's actually a follow-up coming in from Carlo asking for clarification as to whether Richard was either asking about Earth node hardware or air node hardware. So I do want to be clear here that there is a distinction, correct, between the actual air node hardware and the Earth node hardware. So Richard, feel free to clarify down below. We've got Eric tuning in here, myself for all. We've also got Coinfera. Thank you for tuning in, as well as Billy joining the conversation. We've got Colin agreeing with you, Rob, earlier about skipping the conversation surrounding blockchain, which is, I think, a good point that you guys raised there. That might actually be something that scares people or might raise a red flag if they're not familiar with the actual space. So I do appreciate the insights there. Jeff posting an address. I'm not sure what that's for. Maybe he wants us to send him a tip. I'm not really sure. Anywho, let's go ahead and just jump back in here into the regular schedule for today's show. We saw the EN NFTs hitting a new all-time high briefly for 200,000 ADA. We now have an additional EN NFT being listed on the market for 139,000 ADA. But this is well up over 2.5x from the lows of about 60,000 ADA. Now, this was right before the speculation around World Mobile partnering up with SpaceX. And as soon as that happened, I mean, we saw not only the World Mobile token price shooting up and all good entries, basically disappearing, but we also saw a lot of the cheap EN NFTs getting swept up from the floor. So it's now extremely hard to jump into these particular NFTs. Right now, the cheap is going for $64,000. So obviously not something that anybody can just come and pick up. But Rob, what does this sort of signify to you? I've mentioned this in the past. If we're already seeing this sort of bullishness before the actual AYA network is up and before Earth nodes are actually processing real data, the hype is only going to grow once operators actually begin to see rewards and once they actually lock them up in order to run or to operate the Earth nodes.
Yeah, there's a lot to look at when you talk about price. The highest price one, I believe, was 128,000. I think that was the highest one that ever sold in terms of ADA. But also remember, at that time, ADA was about 25 cents, right? So you're talking $33,000, maybe less. We've seen them go. So it depends on what are you comparing it to, the price in US dollars, the amount in ADA. Because if ADA goes back down to 10 cents, hey, you could sell this for 300,000 tokens and it still wouldn't be an all-time high in US dollars. If ADA continues to rise in price and the US dollar continues to plummet because of inflation, what metrics are you actually using? I think that people that are invested in World Mobile, from a mental standpoint, they're mentally invested. They know what it's gonna do. And if they were fortunate enough to get in earlier, whether early node reservation, buying one at the auction, or getting one at a lower price on the JPEG store on the secondary market, I don't think people want to really sell those. I think that people are starting to realize that there's a decoupling happening between World Mobile and not necessarily Cardano, but just with the market in general, because it's not truly a crypto project. It's a project that incorporates real world telecoms and crypto. I think that we're going to see a lot more people wanting to get these, and you're probably going to see that floor rise. Probably the people that are selling are people that aren't paying attention, and they just held it long enough, and they don't want to hold it any longer, or they have a big bill come up and they need some quick cash. That's my guess. But I think that as this moves on, we shouldn't be shocked. We shouldn't be shocked. I mean, think about it right now. What's the all-time high for WMT? Like 93 cents. It hit really briefly. I was watching it happen. I was in awe when it first came out. It shot up and then it came back down in pretty quick order that same day. And I have a buddy who bought 100,000 WMT at 93 cents US or 91 cents US in order to get the 100,000 for his Earth node. So he's paid still 50% more than the going rate right now in terms of US dollars. But I think that as this goes on, if WMT hits $1, and I don't like to price speculate, but just think about it. What if it hits $1? We all think it can. We're all here because we were interested in price. I have no knowledge of anything going on price wise or how that works other than basic supply and demand. But if it's $1 right now, we're earning 2,000 WMT per month basically for holding an Earth node before mainnet, and those are early rewards. Just think about what happens when you start to see other projects coming on to the IA chain. What happens when you start to see bigger rewards because more customers are coming in and we're getting the buybacks are increasing. I mean, you can speculate all you want. You can do paper napkin math all day long and think of, I'm going to be a millionaire next week, or I'm going to have 10 cents next week. It doesn't. I think that people are realizing there's an opportunity here, and if you got in early enough, there's no reason to get out. I think that's why people are still so desperate to buy, and I think that's why people aren't really willing to sell at this point. I mean, we're at what is it, 5 are listed. I think that's the lowest I've ever seen since day one of the NFT. I don't think we've had a lower amount, so I think it's definitely, if there's an opportunity, it's something people are definitely looking at, and they're hoping for that chance.
Yeah, again, it's unfortunate for anybody who's just finding out about World Mobile now and really trying to get some skin in the game from the EN side of things. But do keep in mind that there are other ways to earn and contribute to the sharing economy, which include obviously being an Airinode operator, a host, but then also even just staking your WMT in order to earn more WMT, right? So do keep that in mind. One thing I did want to quickly touch on, and I saw this tweet. I'm not going to name any names, but somebody was taking a look at the pairing between World Mobile and ADA, right? And as you guys can see, obviously, World Mobile has been outperforming compared to ADA, and did mention that they were going to be taking a short position against World Mobile. And I was just thinking to myself, probably not the best thing to do, especially when it's a project like World Mobile that's been able to deliver and that continues to deliver. One thing that I've heard in the markets is price can stay more irrational or at a more irrational level than investors can stay solvent. And this is one case where I think that could potentially be the case, right? Again, people are going to look at this and say, World Mobile is overextended. There's no utility. There's no value. I completely think the opposite, right? My thing is if you're willing to short against World Mobile right now, it's probably not the best time to do that. That would have been 6, 8, 9 months ago, before we saw the release of over 1,000 air nodes, before we saw the release of the Aerostat in Zanzibar, before we saw the awards at the Mobile World Congress event. Those would have been the days to short World Mobile, not when there's more and more talks about how they're growing, how they're expanding, and how they're going to get closer and closer to the mainnet launch. So I want to quickly highlight that there. Obviously, everybody's entitled to their own opinion and to their own sort of analysis. But I thought that was quite interesting that somebody was willing to take that sort of risk and short the World Mobile token at this point against ADA. All right, let's go ahead and dive into, I believe, what will be the last topic here for today's live stream. I do appreciate everybody tuning in here. If you have any sort of questions or topics that you guys want us to highlight, please make sure to go ahead and leave them down in the replay. We'll close out by taking a couple of those comments here for today's stream. The last thing I want to quickly touch on is scan for points. I'm not sure I made an official announcement here, but I did get added as a World Mobile Ambassador. I want to just give a shout out and a thank you to Rob, of course, Clover, all the members that I've been able to meet in person, and obviously Mickey and the team for onboarding me as an ambassador. It's been a pleasure. Yesterday, I had my very first call with the ambassadors, and we're able to get a little bit of insight in some alpha surrounding Scan for Points, which I do want to touch on here. Again, I'm not sure that I can actually share the alpha, but we're able to see some of the concepts and some of the sort of ideas into how they plan on gamifying Scan for Points moving forward. Now, just generally speaking, when it comes to Scan for Points, I did myself wonder, how are they using this data? So for anybody who just isn't aware, I want to quickly go ahead and share this. And then I want to turn over to Rob to talk a little bit about what we talked about yesterday, obviously making sure not to share too much, but then just also just what his general experience has been like since watching Scan for Points come out and, watching it grow. So in terms of the data and what Scan for Points is actually being used for, it states here, number 1, the frequency usage, number 2, signal strength, number 3, brand broad utilization, number 4, interference levels, number 5, cell phone tower locations, number 6, the type of technology, number 7, the quality of service, followed by the environmental impact. And I believe that is it. So Rob, over to you. I know yesterday we talked about, missions, enhancing Scan for Points. We also even got to see some pretty cool badges. I'm not sure we can speak more about that, but I want to let you sort of guide the conversation so you can get in trouble, but then also so you can share more about about what we discussed yesterday with the community.
Yeah. So as I've said, I went and I bought a Google Pixel phone on Amazon just so I could do it because I'm an iPhone user. So I was scanning, and I took a break for a couple of weeks. I was watching, and then I watched my positions slide down quite a bit. I was way out of the top 100, and I've actually made it back up. Yesterday, I woke up and I was in the top 40 again. I've had a couple of really big days where I've been scanning for hours and hours and hours because of what I was doing, but it's addictive. It's extremely addictive. You have this thing on your phone. It shows you which hex you're in. You're walking down the street and you realize that the middle of the hex is in the middle of the street, and you're looking around thinking, is this a busy street? Can I go out and walk there for a few seconds and try and capture more of that? Or I remember one time I was walking down an alley. I was in downtown, and I was walking down an alley, and there is these 2 apartment buildings, and there's this gate blocking the parking lot, and the line for the hex to this parking lot was right at the gate. So I'm literally standing there. It's like 1 a.m, right? And I'm standing there, and I'm reaching my arm out with the phone in hand over this metal gate, and I'm holding it for like 45 seconds, trying to make sure I get a scan in because I'm just inside that hex line at this point. It makes it very addictive. Somebody said I've been walking more. I've been walking a ton. I've been driving slow speeds. Manny said the other day he's thankful for rush hour traffic at this point because he can scan and get more of those and clean it up as opposed to getting one every 20 or one every 30 on the road as he drives. So it's addictive. It's fun. You're helping World Mobile out big time by doing it because, like I said, they're gathering all those different data points so they can figure out what does it look like here. Where is the next best place to start a deployment at? And so we're feeding them a lot of data. Obviously, we know that the points at some point are going to be used for exchange for certain things. It might mean that you able to exchange it for an actual WMT. It might mean that there's an amount that you can exchange those points for the gift cards that are on the app right now. There's a lot of things, but they're also trying to find ways to get more people involved and to make it even more fun and addictive. And one of those things you mentioned was they have ideas for different types of bounties or rewards or benefits. And it might mean things like, you mentioned badges. Here are badges for different things. And once you like a Pokemon, once you collect all of them, maybe you get a super badge, you get a super something else that there's a benefit. Personally, I think it'd be a lot of fun. You mentioned they kind of showed off some testities of what this looked like, and I'm thinking to myself, this is so like dated, but it's kind of coming back, and I'm on the wrong side of 40 at this point, so who cares, right? But on the merch store, there are some patches you can get. You can get a couple World Bowl patches. The one with the colored W, the one with the grayscale, and then there's the Mozambique patch. And I looked at those, and I saw I think it was in one of their advertisements. I saw something where there's a jean jacket that had that on the patch, the patch on the shoulder, and I'm like, I gotta buy these patches now. And I started Googling and I was trying to find, doing some online shopping, finding a really cool jean jacket. What if you could get like the badges? I have the different badges. I scanned at night, or I did this, or you have all your badges that they actually make a patch for, right? And you use your points to buy those. And all of a sudden you're walking around, we'll show up at one of these conferences and somebody like me is gonna be walking around with a freaking jean jacket with a sleeve of patches or across the back, or, all the flair, or all the glam, or whatever it's gonna be. I mean, I think there could be a lot of fun with this, and I think it's gonna make it very competitive. You already see some people that they're like, I drive 12 hours a day, and you watch them shoot up the rankings. And for a job, I'm a driver. We talked about trying to get people that are maybe Uber drivers or Lyft drivers that do this part time, but now they're doing some other type of earning while they're in the car. There's a lot of really cool ideas out there for that. And I think they're trying to find ways to gamify it, because again, it helps them out. It helps them to get the data to figure out where they need to deploy, but they're also gathering local area data that they can in turn sell. They can sell those reports to other companies that are going to use it for different things, not just World Mobile and telecoms. So by providing all this information, they've generated another revenue source, which they can use for putting back into Scan for, hey, we made $5 million with the data from Scan for Points. Let's put a portion of that back in to reward these guys for what they're doing, like they're doing with the buybacks for the Earth node payments, with the buybacks with the WMT token. I mean, there's a lot of really cool ideas. And again, some of these things, this is just me talking. I'm not sure if this is all in their plans or not, but it's a cool possibility. And based on past histories, I can see them considering things like this.
Yeah, I love what you just mentioned. There are a lot of really interesting ideas, and seems like everybody's a little bit more active now with the release of Scan for Points. I personally do think that they need to have some sort of campaign to allow for iOS users to catch up when the app is available for iOS, because I've literally just been having FOMO. I had an Android phone that I borrowed from a friend for a couple of weeks, where I was able to actually get it connected, and I was able to scan for points, but that was the very first iteration before leaderboards and all that was released. And I had to give the phone back since then, but I don't own an Android phone, so I literally have to listen to everybody else talk about the experience and just the amount of fun that they've had scanning for points. And I'm like, man, when the iOS people get a shot, we need a way for us to catch back up, because you guys are well ahead of us. It's going to be impossible for iOS users to really catch up once the app is available for us. But I am happy to hear that you've obviously enjoyed it, and I'm looking forward to getting it myself to be able to play around with it here in my local area. Now,
so I have a solution for you, Fareed. Ready for this? Everybody who's watching this live stream on Twitter or on X needs to click on the link to go to YouTube and follow Fareed. There's close to 1,000 people watching right now. Go follow him and watch his videos. Fareed, as a content creator on YouTube, gets paid for minutes watched. So the more people that follow, the better the algorithm, the more people that watch his other videos, the pre-recorded ones, especially the ones that the short formats, 8, 10, 12-minute ones. Watch those, watch a number of them. Get him those minutes watched, get those increased up there, so he has more followers, more likes, more subscribers, more minutes watched. Is going to generate some income, and then Free can take that YouTube income from all of you, the World Mobile family, and then go and buy his Scan for Points Google Pixel phone that he can use and he can scan with right now. And then once the app comes over to iOS, he can take his 24-word seed phrase, move it to his iPhone, and then he has that Google Pixel ready to go, so he can do a Unity node with Minutes Network when that gets released. So please follow Fareed. Let's get him going. Let's get him that phone so he can scan and be a part of this thing.
You're making me blush, Rob. I appreciate that. I was waiting for you to tell the community to go download some sort of app or something like that to get early access, and then you did a segue into me. But I do appreciate that, and Rob is definitely correct. Any views likes, engagement, it all goes towards really spreading and showing the algorithm, that you guys do find the content to be helpful. So I appreciate, everybody that's always tuning in, always showing up. I can't thank you all enough for the support you guys have shown me until now. And I really look forward to providing you guys with more value as the channel grows and as I'm able to actually go full time into Web3. So that'll be the day, like, I'm really looking forward to that, is when I can say, hey, like, I am all into crypto. I'm not coming back. So, Rob, I appreciate the kind words there. In closing, I do want to quickly touch on the staking for discounts, and then we'll go ahead and wrap up today's stream. But before we do that, I want to highlight the group missions. Again, just speculating here, but just with respect to Scan for Points, imagine being able to have a group mission where you can pick a team. I can say, hey, my group is made up of myself, Rob, and Clover, and we get some sort of assignment from the World Mobile, team, or from the World Mobile project, stating, hey, the first people to maybe scan and raise 100 points as a team collectively, right, earn an additional point or earn a particular badge. I mean, I can see this being gamified in so many ways. And that's what I really love about this, is the fact that the team is really listen to the community's suggestions, but then really begin to implement them to show, hey, not only are we listening, we're actually using these suggestions. So I did want to highlight that there. I think that would bring a lot more competition into an already competitive ecosystem. So the very last thing that I want to touch on is the World Mobile Roadmap. For anybody who's not aware, you can find this available at Trello.com. I'll just go ahead and just actually post a link to this down below right now. But this basically gives you guys a glimpse into what the World Mobile team is currently working on, what they've already released, what's available for public testing, etc. And one of the things that we saw here, let me see if I can actually find it, is staking for discounts here. So, Rob, I'll turn it over to you. You've got the details here. Can you maybe highlight what you think is going to happen with this and what has already been confirmed?
Yeah, so I first want to apologize for something I said a little bit ago, and I hate price talk speculation. And normally I tend to have an idea of what I'm saying as I'm saying it. Clearly, just a few minutes ago, I was like, I don't know what I'm talking about right now. So when I was like, it could go to this, or what if it does this, and Earth nodes, and some of those things are unrehearsed, and I don't like doing that because I don't want people to think that I have some idea about what it's doing. I sit in the car and I drive by that lottery sign. I think, man, what could I do with $533 million? That would be amazing. I do the same thing as everybody else does. So it's not like there's no rhyme or reason to what I say when I talk about price speculation, because I'm just guessing like everybody. And I'm saying that as well because of staking for discounts, because I think this is going to be huge for us that are here, hopefully to financially benefit off of this. There are 2 billion WMT tokens in existence, right? Much of these are locked up. 28% of it is going towards Earth node operator rewards. Even the buybacks, that adds to that 28%. A big portion of it is also been tied up in wallets for the co-founders and things, and then the rest will be publicly distributed, rewards and other things over time. And you can actually find the tokenomics on the WMT website, worldmobiletoken.com, and you can actually see what the distribution looks like for those 2 billion tokens, right? But World Mobile has come out the entire time, and they've said we want to connect 1 billion people by the year 2030. Okay, let's say they get a fraction of that. Let's say they get 100 million. That's a ton of people they're connecting, right? Whether or not they're full-time paying subscribers, whether whether they're people just benefiting from the network being in their area and using it to strengthen their signal when they have another carrier, right? There's a lot of different ifs and buts and all these things. However, when you look at staking for discounts, what are they doing? The goal is to have an app that can house everything. You can log in with your DID, and you can monitor your air nodes. You can check your crypto wallets, right? And if you look there, there's the wallet that they're building right now is a multi-chain wallet. They want to be able to have you bring in your Bitcoin or your ETH and hold things using your DID, and having it right there in the app. Well, you're also going to be able to have a client portal for people that are going to be subscribers to the broadband or to the mobile networks. And so by having all this stuff in one place, it's easier to onboard people into crypto. You know, there are apps where if you log in, hey, you get 5 points for doing this or 5 points for doing that, and people don't know what those points are, but they know, hey, I can go get $3 off my Verizon bill, or I can get $9 cash back on my credit card because I've accumulated 84,000 Visa points, right? So as you're accumulating these points, scanning for points, as you're bringing money to pay your bills, there's probably going to be an option to buy some crypto. And this staking for discounts thing, what this is very, very exciting, because what it's going to allow people to do is, if you have some WMT, there's a threshold, maybe it's, and who knows what the price of WMT could really affect this as well. But maybe there's a threshold. If you have 10 WMT in your wallet, you get a 5% discount or a 3% discount off your monthly bill. If you have 1,000 WMT, you get a 5 or a 7% discount. And then all of a sudden, what are people doing? People are loving the World Mobile service. They know that it's consistent. They know that they can travel anywhere in the world with it, with those eSIMs. And they're happy paying their monthly bill, especially if they combine it with the broadband, like they're doing in Reno right now. You're combining all these bills. You have this app that's a one-stop utility shop for everything World Mobile related. Okay, and now you have people who aren't into crypto saying, "All right, well, for $5 or $10 or $100, I can lock this up. It's something that might go up in value, but I can lock it up and get a monthly discount off of my bill." And so now you just onboarded 10 million people that are all holding 5 or 10 or 100 tokens, right? You're going to run out of tokens. Supply and demand. When people are demanding it and the supply isn't there, you see price go up, right? And that's what a lot of people like to see here, is number go up. So the more ways they can incentivize people to hold, and I don't know if it's going to be like, if they're going to be staking the same way and earning the same rewards. If they're going to be staking those rewards to an Earth node, there's a lot to be discussed, and because they haven't really announced a lot with it. But the more that people can come onto World Mobile on board without being a crypto person, transitioning, buying some crypto, holding it in order to get those discounts, because that's what people care about. What does my bill look like? How convenient is it to pay the bill? How many different things can I do to get different discounts for things? I want to do that. You're going to see the available liquidity on the market. It's going to shrink up and disappear if people are incentivized to buy and hold this token for long periods of time. So it's not just me, the crypto degens and the stakers and all these things that, hey, I have my vault and I stake over there, and I have the Cardano stake pool that I stake to, or I stake with ETH or whatever it is. It's not those guys. It's going to be your parents. It's going to be your neighbors, people that have never bought into a crypto before, and all of a sudden now they're, hey, I can get a discount. And it's not, you have to buy it, but I can sell it at any point, and I'm not going to lose value on it potentially. I can hold it. It's not like I have to give them $100 and never see that again. It's, I own this, and that's interesting to WMT, interesting to crypto as a whole, and it's giving them something they want, which is to save money on their phone bills.
Yeah, you raised some really, really interesting points there. And what this reminds me of, I'm trying to pull it up here very quickly. Give me just a moment. Is the staking for discounts that the Cornucopia game recently released. So as you were explaining that, that's actually what came to my mind. So I was able to track this down, but Cornucopia's just released this as a part of their tokenomics a couple of weeks back. And I think this is going to be the norm moving forward, right? As you mentioned, not only providing value to the people that already own the token, but adding additional or reducing, I should say, the amount of sell pressure in the open markets, right? Now you pair that with the buybacks, which are also occurring on the market. It's almost like a double whammy, right? So I think it's just a matter of time before price reflects that. Very similar to Cardano. Again, I mentioned this a lot of times, but I feel, that price tends to be a lagging indicator, especially in the crypto world, where a lot of people tend to ignore a lot of value. And obviously World Mobile is a project that I think provides a lot of value, even though the price isn't there. So some people, they get worried. And we see the sort of the same sentiment with Cardano, right? People say, hey, why is the price of ADA not jumping, or it's not moving? I'm like, guys, don't worry. The value is here. That's what we need. you should be worried if you're waiting for a coin to pump and there's no value or there's no fundamentals to it. Cardano has fundamentals. Cardano has governance. Cardano has security. All of that stuff. Yes, it's taking a little bit longer than expected, but that's what's going to eventually allow for price appreciation. That's why meme coins, yes, they pump, but they always go back to zero, especially in a bear market, because there's no inherent fundamentals. There's no inherent value. Take a look at World Mobile. There is value. There's an economy. It's beginning to finally grow. So I think price is just a lagging indicator. And I saw a comment coming in from Jeff earlier, which sort of agreed with that. So jumping back into staking for discounts here, the Cornucopias team has already implemented something similar where depending on how much of the Kopi token you stake, you do receive a discount on NFTs, but then also on their marketplace. So imagine an NFT mint, and you want to get a 5% discount. Hey, here's how much Kopi you have to stake, up until a 20% discount. Obviously, we haven't seen the actual values in terms of WMT or what discounts will be given to you, but I would assume that it'll be a very similar model to what we're seeing here. So I do want to quickly touch on that there. And then in closing, I was trying to find the tweet here. Let's see, I think it's over here, surrounding the buyback. So we're now nearing 1 million of the WMT tokens being bought back on the open market. I think we're now nearing almost $200,000 if we do a conversion of that. So again, the team really putting their money where their mouth is. Again, these are tokens that would normally be on the open market that the team has bought back to redistribute to people that are actually contributing to the project. So over the long term, as long as we continue to see the buybacks in the open market, and as long as we continue to see the staking for discounts and just more incentives for people to lock up the actual WMT, the more of a price run I think we'll see when the actual bull market and the value appreciation, just the awareness surrounding World Mobile comes about. So that will do it here, I think, for today's stream. We do have a couple of questions that I want to quickly go ahead and wrap up on. We've got 3 separate questions coming in here from Earthpath and Billy Montbriand. So thank you both for that. The first one is surrounding the Unity node. I am not by any means licensed to talk about this. Maybe Rob will let you jump on this one, but Earthpath is asking, does the Unity node need a license or a minimum amount of MNT from the Minutes network in order to run it?
All you'll need is to be able to download the app and onto a Google Pixel phone and run the app. There'll be rewards and benefits. I'm not sure if that's going to be in tokens or in fiat. I'm sure it's kind of nation specific. I know they're really trying to hit places like Nigeria and the Philippines. Those are 2 of the countries they're starting in right now. But no, you don't need to have any WMT or MNT to do the Unity node. The goal is to get people in the areas where that's being used specifically onboarded. It benefits their network, and again, don't need any crypto experience in order to be a part of this thing. You just need a phone.
Thank you. We've got a follow-up here from Billy. Does your WMT vault work with the WMT app? And when you're referring to the app, Billy, I'm assuming you're referring to the global app, which is available on Android. I'll try to answer this one, Rob, here, but clarify me if I'm incorrect. If I'm not mistaken, the global app is available. It's on the preview testnet. So keep that in mind. It's not live on the mainnet. All of the scanning that you're doing is in a testnet wallet, whereas your WMT vault should be on the mainnet, right? So you're talking about 2 separate networks here. Now, you could recover your wallet or whatever wallet holds your WMT that is staked in the vault. You could recover that in the WMT app, but keep in mind that that will be on the preview testnet, right? So it's not going to be on the mainnet. So to answer your question, I don't believe you can actually recover that wallet or that you can actually do anything with that, given the different networks that are currently being used for the global app versus the actual staking with the vaults, which is done on the mainnet. Rob, anything that you want to add for that?
So remember, right now your WMT is in a Cardano wallet. It's a Cardano native token. And if you have a bridged version of WMT right now, you're not able to stake that at the moment if you're on ETH or BNB or Conflux. So basically what the vault does is the vault, you take your receiving address from your wallet and you pair it in the vault and you give permission for it to look at your wallet, and that's it. And then it takes a snapshot based on that. Nothing is actually in your vault except for those rewards. When the rewards come in, then you can leave them there or you can claim them. And when you claim them, they actually send them to your Cardano wallet. So they're 2 separate things right now. What's going to happen eventually is they're going to have an inclusive wallet that's going to be able to be on the app, and it's going to be multi-chain. And when that happens, you'll be able to store WMT directly in the app using the same DID that you're using for scan for points and everything else. That's the goal. That's the focus. So remember, they built this vault because the plan was initially that they were going to be a Cardano native token, and they're going to build on a Cardano as kind of a side chain. And they needed something that was going to pair, since it was a native asset on the Cardano blockchain. So they built this app. Eventually, when Aya becomes its own thing and it's its own chain, and they're going to tie in with all these other chains. Again, they're not running away from Cardano. They're not going to ETH or to Binance or anywhere else. It's going to be its own thing. It's going to have multi-chain utility. That's all going to be in the app. And so at that point, you'll be able to have your vault right within the app. But at this point, they're completely separate things. The app that's on the phone, for people that are actually in a service region where they're able to use World Mobile as a service provider, that might be in the app. But the crypto wallet where you're staking, getting those vault rewards, those, right now, they're two completely separate entities.
Thank you, Rob. If you guys are not already following Rob on Twitter, please make sure to go ahead and do so. The link to his official X is down below. I appreciate all of the kind words here coming in from Bruce and Carlo and just everybody who's tuned in here. I think that will do it here for today's live stream. I know we typically like to end off with closing thoughts. I do have to get going here for a friend who's actually moving into a brand new house. So I'm going to go help him move some furniture. And I know, Rob, you've got the kids probably still banging on the door asking for their iPads. So I think we'll have to skip today's closing thoughts. But hopefully you guys have been able to find today's conversation to be helpful. Really just giving you guys a broader update surrounding World Mobile. Rob, again, I cannot thank you enough here for jumping on here, giving me some of your time here on this wonderful Saturday. I look forward to doing this again with you soon. That said, I think that's going to do it here. Again, I appreciate everybody tuning in here. We got Kristen, we've got Zimcoin, Ben Chicken, we got Jeff, Earthpath, RL, Limitless. I cannot thank you all enough, and hope to see you guys in the next stream. That said, and as always, everybody, take